What's up, patrons and subscribe stars?
Hello.
Welcome to our monthly exclusive podcast. This was a really, really close vote for this one. So we had...
Was it like one vote off?
For a while it was,
Yeah.
and then at the last minute, Cowboy Bebop pulled away by a few votes.
By a couple.
But Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind...
Once again, finishing second.
Yeah, and Cowboy Bebop and Undertale. I put Undertale as a part of
nice.
that. And they all got a ton of votes, so it was very close.
Okay.
But Cowboy Bebop came out on top. And we're only going to be talking about the first 5 episodes.
Yeah, at the beginning.
Because, and that kind of works out really well, because the first 5 episodes essentially serve to introduce you to the cast members, like the protagonists of the show.
I'd say the first
4
episodes.
Yeah. There's only one character we haven't met yet.
Yeah.
That's a little bit later.
Coming a little later.
But the 5th episode is what I feel is like the real hook.
Yeah.
The real hook. Not that these others don't serve for that purpose, but it's like the real hook into Cowboy Bebop. If you get through episode 5 and you're not ready to like, okay, you're in for the long haul, it's probably just not for you.
Yeah.
But episode 5 is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
In terms of
it's so good.
The history of anime.
Yeah.
Like it's one of the most iconic.
Yeah.
One of the most well-executed, brilliant episodes of any anime I've ever seen. Episode 5 of Cowboy Bebop is like an all-time great episode of
it's so
anything.
Good. You know what I love about episode 5? You don't necessarily need to have watched the previous episode.
Yeah, that's true.
That episode kind of stands alone.
Yeah.
You know, and like there may be a few little things here and there, but for the most part, you can just jump into that episode not having seen the show. And it's not like you'll know what's going on, but even having seen the previous episode, you still don't know everything that happened in that episode. But you will be able to appreciate the art and the mastery of Shinichiro Watanabe. He is
the director.
So good.
He's amazing.
Because he did, I think, Samurai Champloo as well.
He did.
And Space Dandy and a bunch of other things. He is so good. He's
an incredible director.
Yeah.
So anyways, I love his style. And I kind of miss this about television in general. It used to be that basically everything was self-contained within the episode.
Yeah.
You could just watch a single episode from anywhere.
Yeah,
and
that's
it'd be
true.
like you'd be able to pick up on it
true.
and more
You're
or less
right.
get it.
Yeah.
Now it's like all arcs over like seasons. You can't just like jump into, I don't know, like Game of Thrones in season 4, episode 2, and be like, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
You have to start from the beginning.
Shows
That's not the way shows used to be.
It's not. And there's pluses and minuses to both.
I'm not saying that like you should only do one. I just miss that there's like no TV doing that at all anymore.
There's very little. That's a good point.
And I
it's
love
probably
that
just
about
comedies.
these.
Comedies still do that.
Yeah.
Like The Simpsons. Like, okay, fine. But like, and that's pretty old. But they're still making new episodes now.
Yeah,
right?
but it started back in
you're
this
right.
time.
I would guess I don't even watch television now, so I couldn't tell you. Bob's Burgers, there you go, that's one.
Yeah.
Shows like that may still do that.
Yeah.
But outside of comedies, it's like basically
very rare. Yeah.
Super rare.
And I just like shows that do that, where it's just like, it doesn't really matter. You could just like tune into any episode and you'll be fine, like, right, to watch it.
Yeah.
Anyway, the first episode
Asteroid Blues.
Asteroid Blues.
Yeah.
The little summary for this reads, Spike Spiegel and his partner Jet Black get more than they bargained for when they travel through space to track down a drug lord and his girlfriend.
Nice. At the very beginning, there's a really cool montage that plays, which will harken to episode 5.
This is the part that is foreshadowing like what the show is really about.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's going to be a while. We're basically to episode 5 where we get like even like a better, more complete introduction to this storyline.
Or to even the character of Spike. Like we really don't get, we get to know him in different ways, but we don't get to know his story basically at all.
Right.
Until episode 5.
And then, even then, it'll like go away for a while.
Yeah.
And then it comes back really heavy in the last like 4 or 5 episodes. But this little thing that it opens up on with the church bells.
Yes.
And Spike standing there smoking in the rain and dropping the rose into the puddle.
The flowers, and then you see the gunshots and just
that is like here. The crux. Like that's what Cowboy Bebop is working to.
And they're hinting.
Story.
Yeah, it almost feels like maybe they made episode 1 and then they said, but let's leave a hint at the beginning that the show has more. And it's like, hey, they did that and they did it so well because it's so cool. It's like monotone, right? Everything looks bluish, like it's almost like black and white, except it's blue, right?
Like
It's
a
not.
little hue in the
Yeah.
blue, yeah.
So it's like a nighttime thing, but they're doing the black and white for sure. And then the first time you see the color is when the rose drops and it's red, and it's like, whoa! You don't even really realize that you haven't seen color up until that moment, and then
Yeah.
it's like, oh dang, this is crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, montage at the beginning, you don't understand any of it, but it's brilliant. There's minimal, it's a minimal music box soundtrack. You hear the bells, which bells remind you of like a church, which is weddings, funerals,
Yeah.
and other supplications to God, I suppose. And that's what a church means, especially in this, in this sense. But then there's like a little music box playing. It's like a children's music box. It's so minimal. And a lot of the music here is minimal. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But rose falls in the water. It's raining, which is important.
Yes, right.
The rose turns red, the background is blue, and the only other color we see is blood, which is red, and the rose, which is red.
Yep.
So it's freaking perfect. And in the intro, by the way, then the intro plays. And it's super fun. And
the style of this is
I
just
love it, dude.
so good.
I love it.
But like, I love the way that this director in particular, it's kind of common in his work, uses like anachronistic elements like music and cultural references.
Oh, yes.
To
Tons.
clash with the setting that
Yeah.
the show takes place in.
Yeah, this
So,
show's like 7 different genres,
Yes.
all combined into one thing.
So it's like you get like the neo-noir feel
Yeah, yeah.
from that jazziness.
Yeah. Especially the whispering jazz club
Yeah,
guy, the
but
3,
it's-
2, 1, let's jam.
Yeah, but this is a science fiction
Yes.
setting, right?
In the future, yeah.
And like he'll use the harmonica and these
Yeah,
Western,
The blues, yeah, the Western.
these Western musical cues.
Yeah.
But and Space Cowboy. See you,
Yes.
see you next time, Space Cowboy, or whatever it is. What is it that they actually say?
See you, Space Cowboy.
That's
Yeah.
what it is. So he's combining genres, and he uses music in ways that you would not expect. So it really sticks out because of that. And he does the same thing in Samurai Champloo. He uses a lot of hip hop
Yes, yeah,
and like graffiti
Yeah,
and things
yeah.
like that in like an Edo period of Japan,
yeah.
samurai and things like that. So I really like that about his style.
Oh, it's so good.
It makes it really memorable. It really makes it stick out because it's just not the type of thing you would see connected very often together.
Yeah.
So that opening title sequence is one of the best animated
It's so
sequence,
good.
like openers, title sequences.
It
of
is
all
so
time.
good.
It's amazing. It's got a little bit of a Bond feel to it, right?
Oh,
Where
it does. Yeah, yeah.
They'll do a lot of
They're
like
showing the
silhouettes,
guns shooting and silhouettes of a woman.
yeah, things like that.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I love the beginning though. So the very first shot is on Mars, basically.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of introducing you to the world.
Yeah, and this is where harmonica's playing.
And it's super bluesy. It's so cool, and it's
Yeah.
just solo harmonica.
Yeah.
And you see, and I think every episode starts out with a space shot near Mars
Yeah.
or so, seeing those rings and seeing some spaceships traveling. And that may have to do with the episodic nature of the show. But I think it's really cool that they start out with a shot of that every single time. It just kind of sets the mood of
Yeah.
where they're at, and it's the lonely music and everything. It feels lonely.
Yes.
That's kind of what I was getting at with the music box, with the harmonica. A lot of the music that we're hearing, it's very minimalistic. It's typically just a solo,
Yeah.
and it's other than the intro, I suppose. And then you're alone in space. I mean, it's just very lonely feeling, and the
Yes.
music does a good job of that. And so does the camera work. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I really loved the animation. I think that they kind of went all in for the beginning to like hook people. As
Yeah.
Spike is practicing his martial arts.
Yeah,
There's this
silhouetted.
spin that he does
yes,
that's
yeah, yeah.
so smooth. It's just like, dude, I have not seen animation like this
Yeah, yeah.
in a long time.
Yeah, it's
like this
really
is
smooth.
really, really good.
You know, I think in some ways Cowboy Bebop is somewhat the pinnacle of animation
Yeah.
because once they get computers involved and things started to be automated in a different way, the way anime has gone, especially lately, it's just not like that. It's not as detailed as Spike. Cowboy Bebop, as Cowboy Bebop was. It was like 1998 or so when this
98,
one came
yep.
out.
And another thing to comment on. This is a single season show. It's another thing this director
Yes.
does. He
Well,
does
it's
it all.
beginning to end.
It's like 20-something episodes.
27, I think.
And it's just one season and it's done.
It's
Story's
over.
over.
Yeah.
I love that
I
about him.
respect that. I freaking love it.
Now, I'm not going to bring this up too much, but this is just a really great example of, again, great dialogue, great use of very few words to set
Yeah.
up many, many things, to communicate
Yeah.
a lot about the characters and the setting and what's going on. This
what I
first
keep saying.
conversation between
With Jet.
Spike and Jet
Yes.
sets up that
Yeah,
they are
I've got notes here. Yeah.
bounty hunters.
Yeah.
So he's trying to brief him on like a target that he wants to go after. But Spike isn't listening. He's
Right.
talking about, you said that this was beef with bell peppers.
Yes.
There's no beef in this.
Yeah, in order
Right.
to be beef with bell peppers, you would need to have beef. Yeah.
And he's like, no, I would call it beef. So they have
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
banter between them.
Yes.
You get the sense they have
So
some
you
history.
do when you're dirt poor.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
sets up that they're broke. They're broke bounty hunters.
Yep.
And then Spike says, well, what about all that money that we got from the last job? And he's like, well, we had to pay for all the damage that you caused to this.
The medical bills.
And the medical bills for the police officer
Yes.
that you hurt or injured. And so you get everything about who these characters are, Spike's recklessness, the fact that they're dirt poor all the time, and they're struggling, and that they're bounty hunters in a period of 30 seconds.
Wow.
In 30 seconds, they tell you all of that.
Nice.
It's amazing.
That's crazy.
And
That's
that effectiveness of dialogue is everywhere in the show.
Yes. Yeah.
They are very minimal.
It's very
but
purposeful.
sharp,
Very sharp.
and they tell you a lot with very few words.
Like Matsuno.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's just really, really well written all the time.
What I wrote here is the very first time we see Jet, we actually get a good, like Spike is their training. He's the fighting guy.
Yeah.
The first time we see Jet, he's wearing an apron.
Yeah.
And he's saying, food's ready.
Yeah.
And you have this strong, buff, muscly dude with the beard, and he's wearing an apron cooking food for this other guy.
Yeah.
Like, first off, that's just a weird kind of contrast right there. Just his character, clearly, like, you can tell he's responsible. He's the motherly figure.
Yeah.
He has to be a mother to this other guy who's doing his own thing, maybe feeling his way around. So Spike feels his way, whereas Jet is more concrete in his approach, right?
Thinks it through.
Yeah. And you get that even before they talk, too,
Yeah.
which is like so cool.
Another thing I wanted to mention there, that 30 seconds of dialogue, right?
Yeah.
That was so well done, that told us all those things. No as you know.
Oh yeah,
dialogue
yeah,
is used.
yep, none.
They don't rely on as you know dialogue. It's just another layer of just like how expertly written this is. It's amazing.
Yep.
So,
it's so good.
really, really love that. So anyways, they set up.
Oh, but this is the last thing they set up here. Jet knows how to get Spike to do what he wants.
Yes.
Because it's like, hey, we're gonna go down to this place. I hear they really have really good beef there. And Spike's like, let's go, let's go.
Yep.
They're going to Tijuana, Mexico, which is the perfect place to go.
Well, it's a asteroid.
Oh, really?
Tijuana is the name of the asteroid.
I thought it
because
was
Earth
on
has
Earth.
been, which we'll learn later in the show. I don't want to say it to spoil.
There's something wrong with Earth.
Earth's
I
been
got
more or
you.
less destroyed at this point.
That's great, but it's got the feel of Tijuana,
Yeah,
Mexico.
so
it's got the feel of. Yeah.
It's like an asteroid that they go to that has been colonized.
You're right, because there's that
you see
sphere.
the-
No, the cone. What'd you call it?
Yeah. Right.
The cylinder of space.
Yes.
I knew it wasn't on Earth. Because every time they look in the sky, I love it. You see the houses, the other side.
Yeah. It's like
it's so cool.
the halo ring effect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's going to go after this this hit here, Asimov, who has stolen some drugs from like a dangerous syndicate that are all after him, and he's got a huge bounty on his head, and so he's on his way down there. I looked a little bit into the tune that Spike is whistling as he's getting into his ship.
Yes.
Because it kind of has that similar effect to what you're talking about, that loneliness.
Yeah, it feels that way.
And
It's just so minimal.
there's a really good little DVD commentary on this
Oh, really?
from the director.
No way.
And some people talking about this. So I really liked that you brought up, because the word he uses there is listless.
Listless.
That's the feeling that the harmonica little piece gives at the beginning.
It's just a dude alone in an alleyway, just
Yeah.
by himself, just
kind of listlessly going through his life, not dealing with certain things in his past. Let's just put it that way.
Sure, of course.
So it's kind of representing where Spike is at. And in that DVD commentary, the director there was talking about how he whistled, like that was him whistling the tune that he's whistling there, and that what the composer wanted from him was something that sounded listless. So that was exactly what they were trying to evoke with the music, right?
Yeah, I put, the music is so minimal, but it really sets the mood. Whether it's just Spike whistling, which is a sign of someone who's carefree, or a solo harmonica, you get the feeling you're in just like a special type of place, a relaxing place, but a place where things could go horribly wrong at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
And the reason I would say that is because a solo harmonica, I don't hear those very often.
No.
But when I do, it's like a train station and it's a homeless guy. It's like, it's a rough situation when somebody's just alone playing a harmonica. It's usually not someone just having fun, right? And so it's like things could go wrong quickly.
Yes.
Or other than that, it's chill, not a care in the world, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, so good. Such good imagery that they evoke with that music.
And so he tells Jet that he's going to go talk to Old Man Bull, I think is what he calls him. But it's Laughing Bull. He's like a Native American, sort of like what would you call it? Like a...
well, Spike goes there, right?
Yeah.
This is the shaman. I would say shaman.
Shaman,
yeah.
Yes, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, something like a shaman.
So Spike goes to see this guy to like get some advice on where he should go to find his bounty.
See, once again, Jet is on his computer looking up what to do. Oh, it's here. This guy. The computer says that this guy goes here and here's how he looks and all that stuff. And then Spike doesn't care about any of that. He's just like, I'm going to go see a fortune teller.
He listlessly goes through the process that somehow he just always kind of ends up where he needs to be.
He feels his way through it, right?
Mm-hmm. It's totally true.
And
I love later in the episode, Jet meets up with him again after he had
after he gets beat up. Yeah.
Spike had just been choked out by Asimov, and Jet, after going through all of that stuff to try to find him, he's like, it's basically impossible.
The trail's
We're not
cold.
going to find him. He's like, basically I just stole this off of the guy.
I just found him. Yeah,
because he went and found Laughing Bull, who told him where
a coyote
to be.
would appear at the north end of town.
Yeah, and so he just felt his way through it and found the guy. Versus Spike or Jet doing all the research, can't figure it out, right? So
I love that. That's
the dynamic between the two of them.
Yes.
And how they kind of work together.
Oh, Jet even remarks that it's such an easygoing song.
Yeah.
That as Spike's whistling and getting in his car, Jet's like such an easygoing song. Meaning Jet's stressed up to his eyeballs, you know? And then Spike is just like, doesn't care.
Yep. So you get a scene where you meet Asimov and Katerina.
Yeah.
They're kind of in a bar, and he's trying to sell like some of his stock. He's trying to find a buyer for
his death sticks. He wants some death sticks.
For this red eye or bloody eye drug.
I like how they do it though, yeah.
Yeah. And so
Bloody
he's like,
Mary and margarita.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't have tomato juice. Oh, but that's like the code word.
It's the code,
right?
exactly, yeah.
It's like a speakeasy almost.
Like,
it feels
he
like the
says,
20s and 30s. It feels like the 1920s.
Maybe
I have some vodka, but I don't have any tomato juice.
And he's like, check the stores or something like that.
Yeah, check the stores, and he kind of shows him.
And then he's like, okay, I know what you're here for. And then they go in the back to talk about it. And he wants a demonstration. And so Asimov sort of shoots the drug into his eyes. And I really like the effect because it's like it makes it so he almost sees things in slow motion. It's like it speeds him up or like enhances his ability somehow because a bunch of guys come to shoot the place up and try to kill him.
Yep.
And he fights them off and is able to literally dodge a bullet.
Yes.
And I thought this was
that part was a little over
a very interesting setup for something later, which I'll get to in a minute. But he like is literally dodging bullets under the influence of this drug, right? But he takes them all out. And then we have Spike like bumping into these people like in a restroom, like a public restroom later.
Yeah.
And then I love his introduction to Katerina where he like bumps into her and she's got like groceries.
Oh, and she spills all the food.
She spills it and he's like pretending to pick it up for her, but then he steals food. I love this because he does it in a charming way.
Yes.
Like he's starving. He literally has had nothing to eat, and he needs to eat food.
Yes.
So that's why he's doing it.
Yes.
But he does this in such a charming way to where it doesn't come across like he's a thief or that he's trying to steal from her necessarily.
He's got the food in his mouth, and she's like...
It's almost like he turns it into a flirtatious thing.
And he pulls out he's like, I also got all these things. That's so funny.
And just like smooths over the situation while also getting himself a meal.
That's true. That's
in
true.
the process.
But it's also, like he just doesn't have a plan.
Yeah.
Like he's just going about it and things just kind of are happening.
Yeah.
And he just is just doing what his body wants to do, which is eat food. And it results in him finding what he needs, you know? It's so funny. When he talks to the shaman, he mentions that he already died once, right?
Yeah.
So I say it seems according to the medium, that he takes women too lightly, right? So he says, I already died once. And then the shaman says, you take women too lightly, which is like Interesting. But that's referring to the idea of the femme fatale, right?
Yes.
The fatal woman. You take women too lightly, you end up dead. And that's kind of the inference there. And that's a film noir kind of idea of the femme fatale, And then this woman with her red dress and the way she's the fatal woman as well. Like she is the femme fatale in this episode.
I just saw Nightmare Alley.
Good.
Which was the latest film from Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, no way.
That is being nominated for Academy Award.
Of course.
I just saw it yesterday. It's really fetching good.
Yeah?
And everything you just said applies to that movie.
Nice.
So anyways, I won't say any more about that.
So he takes lightly life, women, and death. He takes everything lightly, all of it.
So he's talking to her.
Yeah.
And this is where, through the conversation, like he's getting her to like him a little bit, but then he sort of just like subtly reveals he's a bounty hunter, and he knows exactly who they are.
Yes.
And then
the way he does it though,
changes.
the way he does it, man.
Yeah.
It's so good because because she's talking about, oh, Mars is great, this place sucks.
Yeah.
Everywhere sucks except Mars. It kind of feels like Elysium a little bit.
Yeah,
like
gotta go to
all the
Mars.
rich people go there and everything's great there. And Spike's like, I was born there. Wasn't so great for me, you know?
Yeah, right.
And so she's like, oh, no, you don't get it. Mars is wonderful. We're going to do great. And that's what Spike says. It's great if you have a lot of money. And she goes, then we'll be fine. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And then that's where Spike is like, all right. And the way he breaks it to her, he's like, you're running away as far as you can go, but how far can you go? You know they'll catch you in the end.
Yeah.
And she was like, who are you? But the way he says it, Spike is speaking from experience.
Yeah.
You can tell as the way he's talking, he is talking about himself.
Yes.
To her.
Yes.
And it's so cool.
The listlessness of his life.
Exactly.
Is what he's talking about.
And he's just like, I once did what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out so well. And that's where she loses it. That was such a good way to kind of break it to her.
And he's trying to play it off like, listen, I don't go after small fries like Asimov. Like, I'm not here to like.
Yeah, I'm not interested.
And that's when Asimov grabs
Asimov's
him
like,
from behind.
Yes.
It was a really nice sort of like change of the pace of the scene. He nearly chokes him out. But Spike has the wherewithal, as he's like fainting and falling over, to like reach into his pocket and steal the red eye from him, like as he's falling down. That's just who Spike is. He's always able to sort of feel his way through situations. He always ends up broke in the end, and like it's never ideal.
It's not like it works out perfectly,
but he survives.
He makes it,
and he is able to do what he needs to do.
So here's the fun thing: when I was younger, I would watch this episode, and that's a moment where I'd be like, "Yeah, that's a little too much. How did he know that the guy wasn't going to just kill him right then and there?"
Yeah.
But as I watch it now, I'm like, he didn't know, and he's okay with dying.
Yeah.
Like that's the point. It's hard to grasp when you're younger, but it's like, no, Spike kind of wants to die.
He doesn't.
So he's like, if this guy kills me, this is how I go.
Not afraid.
And then, I didn't die. Okay. And that's how he lives his life. He's not afraid of death.
I could also see maybe...
That's fascinating.
I mean, I don't think he plans ahead this much. I think that interpretation is correct. But maybe you could also see it as he like groomed...
He knew she
Katerina
would step in.
to stop.
Yeah.
But I don't think he expected
I tell you what, that guy could have easily broken his trachea and his hyoid bone. He could have still easily died. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I love how he gets him back, right? Like when he Spike sort of is in the big poncho and like
yes,
like
with the sombrero.
Sombrero to buy the drugs, and then he's like when he actually gets to face him. Yeah, like he's such a master martial artist.
Far and away, yeah.
And this is what I loved is that the dude was dodging a bullet earlier. Yeah. But then they go into his perspective, his POV, the red POV, as he sees the fist coming at him and he can't dodge it.
He can't do anything.
So
and Spike talks to him as he's fighting. He's like, you're quick, but you can't see all directions at once. You trust your eyes too much.
Yeah.
So the guy who's focusing on his eyes is missing, Spike probably did something to trick him and was able to bring a hook around and smack him in the face in a way that this guy who only relies on his eyes, including that drug, just wasn't able to sense. But that shows you that Spike, when he fights, he uses all five senses, right? He's got this feel to it that's different from everyone else who's trying to look around and see everything before they make a move.
And he just lays waste to this guy. Like he almost doesn't get touched in the fight.
Yes,
he's just toying with him basically.
Oh, it's great.
Shows how great a fighter he actually is.
Well, there's some Bruce Lee references that actually occur throughout the course of the show, but at least at this moment, the way Spike fights,
Yeah.
it's reminiscent of Bruce Lee, right? Talking about being fluid like water and letting things flow instead of trying to force things. That's what Spike's doing, right?
Yeah.
And so when you add in that, then the genre you have a film noir, western, sci-fi, kung fu, samurai show. It's like all of it together,
All of it roped into one.
It's so funny.
It's awesome. So
and then after that scene, you get a solo saxophone.
Yes.
They keep using different instruments, but whether it's a music box, a whistle, a harmonica, or a saxophone, it's solo every time. And those are all instruments of the blues,
I forgot to mention this, but I love how they inject humor kind of all over the place throughout the show. They keep it light. But those old dudes who sit around playing cards, right?
Just like I used to.
One of them gets mad that like, oh, you're stealing my money when I worked so hard with my good friends to like harvest the crops.
We were your friends.
The buddies you're talking about are me, man.
And the way it's so funny.
It's great.
It's so funny.
But
I watched that in Japanese, and it's hilarious.
As Asimov and Katerina run, they're being chased by the police now, and maybe even syndicate members. Anyways. The animation is just really great. Like there's a part where Asimov like turns a corner, he like slips and falls, but like gets back up. There's just all this dynamic motion to it. It's fantastic. But she ends up like a stray bullet ends up striking, like kind of cutting into her dress that she's wearing. And the whole time you thought that she was pregnant, but it spills all of the vials of the red eye.
That's what she had. Yeah.
And so she was carrying all the vials of the red eye in disguise as being pregnant.
Yeah.
So they get into their ship and they're trying to escape, but it's like there's a whole blockade of policemen out there, and she knows they're not going to make it.
There's no chance.
And Spike's trying to hurry to get to her, but like she ends up killing Asimov, and then gets blown away. Like the police just blow her away, and then she's like falling.
And you see the vials are all coming out of her, of her dress as she's like dying in outer space.
Yeah. So
you know what's crazy though? So you got that scene, right? And then they do the bookend thing where remember when Jet leans over and he's like, "Food's ready," and he's wearing the apron.
Yes.
They cut to like that scene, right? Right on the back end of this woman dying.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it's a really tragic, sad ending.
Yeah, it's very tragic.
Yeah.
This woman just wants a better life, and Spike can relate to her in a deep way. And as soon as she's dead, it's back to
normal.
Just how the show started.
The bounty hunter life.
Yes, that's so smart though. That's so genius. Yeah. So Jet is cooking more cheap food for them to eat. There's a solo harmonica playing. Right. You just understand their life. Right. And why they are the way they are. It's such a tragic story. It all goes right back to how it was from the beginning. It's a cycle. It's one that continues, death and tragedy followed by hunger and loneliness. Beautiful in a heartbreaking way, you know. Spike is right back to training. How many tragedies have happened to get to this moment? Yeah. So this makes you see the beginning of the show in a different light now, where it's like, we thought the Jet was being all lighthearted with Spike, but it's like, who knows what happened the previous day.
Yeah.
Like, people died and they were the cause of it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just their life, you know, it's crazy.
It's a fantastic first episode.
Yep, and then at the end, we got the blues guitar.
Yes.
Once again, a solo guitar, just playing.
A fantastic introduction to Spike and Jet, and to their, the whole sort of like world of Cowboy Bebop, this science fiction world where like there's like, I think on the program in the next episode, the little show they watch.
Oh, God, I love that show so much. It's so good.
They say 300,000 bounty hunters in the system.
I saw that.
It's like there's a lot of freaking bounty hunting going on, which means there's lots of crime.
Yes.
And this feels like a very
cops can't
run down, almost like more Star Wars-y, sort of like the way ships look.
There's no sleekness. Everything's dirty and broken.
Yeah.
Everything.
Like the whole society is like that. And they did a good job of setting all that up in episode 1. So
yeah, it feels real.
the next couple episodes,
we're going to try and get through these next ones quickly and get to episode 5 quick as possible.
They basically just introduce us to the remainder of the cast that's going to be joining our main guys. So episode 1 was Spike and Jet. Episode 2 is Ein, the dog.
Dude. I put, there are 300,000 bounty hunters? Man, the future sucks.
Yeah, seriously. So episode 2 is Ein,
Ein,
the dog. And then episode 3 and 4 are kind of the Faye introduction. Faye Valentine.
Yeah.
So these are kind of silly plots in these. Well, more so the second episode is a silly plot.
Yeah.
The idea is that like this guy, Abdul Hakim, who has had plastic surgery.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, by the way, he's totally supposed to be that guy.
Oh, sure.
And there was a Bruce Lee movie where he fights Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's one of Bruce Lee only made like 4 movies before he died. One of them was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was one of the bad guys that he fights, and one of the other ones was Chuck Norris.
That's crazy.
Oh, it's good stuff.
Oh,
but
yeah, that's how tall he is too, because Abdul Hakim is like really tall.
7 feet at least.
That's totally what that's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's who that was supposed to be.
So he changes his appearance. He gets plastic surgery to change his face. And so there's like an animal that's been taken from a lab.
Yeah, it's called a data dog.
A data dog. I don't know really what that's all about.
Some
but
data
it's
in the dog somewhere.
And so this is like what they're watching on that little program, the bounty hunter program, which is called Big Shot.
Yes.
They're like basically saying all this. Here's the next big bounty thing, right?
I love the way that show goes. It's so melodramatic and so funny.
It shows something about the society. It's like they treat bounty hunting like it's, get excited.
No,
like
later on in the show, we come across just a normal person chilling, running their little shop over on the street side, and they're watching a TV and they're watching this show.
Yeah.
It's like not just bounty hunters watch this show. This is
this
is normal programming. Yeah.
The idea of hunting hard criminals is just so part of the normal life that people just it's like entertainment, right? So it's freaking crazy. But anyways, he gets a call from one of the guys at the lab who they appear to know, who says, "I'll give you a picture, like the most recent picture of what this guy actually looks like," because his face was different on Big Shot. When they were saying, this is Abdul Hakim, but he didn't look anything like the guy we saw from the first scene.
And Spike didn't get that particular memo, right?
Yeah.
Because he holds up the wrong guy at the pet shop.
Oh, yeah. Well,
because Jet talks to the guy who said, I did his surgery, right?
Yes.
Was Spike there for that conversation?
He was sitting there like talking to him, but he's like, I'll show you the picture. He thought he did it again. So when he holds up the guy at the shop, he thought he had done another plastic surgery. But
you keep changing your face, man. And
yeah,
it's like Spike's just guessing. Got
this
totally
guy
wrong.
shows him a picture of what he should look like now, and so they go after him, and there's chases through the city as like a thief takes the briefcase from Hakim or from Abdul Hakim, and opens it to reveal that there's an animal inside, and so. He
tries to pawn the animal,
pawn
to a
or
shop.
sell it to a pet shop.
Yeah, like 200.
Thinking it's going to be worth
Woolongs.
something. Like, come on, it's going to be worth something, right?
I love how they're talking. She's like 200 Woolongs, and the guy's like, that's it. At least give me 280. Or he like starts putting up the numbers.
2. And he's like
2,000?
200 or 2,000 Woolongs?
She's like 200.
No, 2 Woolongs.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like it's worth nothing. And they're like,
it's
what
so funny. Because apparently a Corgi is a very common breed.
Yeah, Welsh Corgi.
The Welsh Corgi.
So this dog is what's inside the briefcase.
Yeah.
And I really like how, because Spike catches up with the thief who took the briefcase. He assumes I've captured Abdul.
Yes.
And that he changed his face again.
Yes.
And so he's like holding him up like that. But then when you find out that this thing's not worth it, he's I must have the wrong guy. Like, I'm done with this, I'm walking away. As he's walking away, he steps in a puddle and gets distracted, and the real Abdul walks past him, and he didn't notice him. Mm-hmm. But he would have recognized that face.
Yeah.
But it's just like a few minutes later, gunshots go off as Abdul's taking the dog again, but the dog escapes and runs away. So there's this big chase. Anyways, in the end, Spike ends up keeping this dog, and Abdul gets captured by the cops, and so they can't claim the bounty.
They can't
on
claim
him.
the bounty, yeah.
And I literally don't know why they keep the dog, because they say even on the show, like the woman didn't want to buy the Corgi. She didn't know it was a data dog. She doesn't a common dog. But on the Big Shot show, they say like there's some collectors out there who would pay a fortune for this dog, and Spike hates dogs. Yeah. So why do they keep this dog?
I don't know.
I literally don't understand why they keep it in the end. It makes no sense.
I like this because Spike says he hates critters and dogs. No, kids, children. Kids and critters, that's it. Yeah. And I wrote, I suppose he will come to love both as the show progresses.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, that's episode 2. Not really like a lot to break down there. It's just kind of a silly introduction to this dog character who's going to be with the crew for the remainder of the show. A little bit more to get into in episode 3. This is the introduction to Faye Valentine.
Yeah.
She goes into a shop at the very beginning. It gets like shot up by people who are after her, and she gets captured by those thugs and taken to the like criminal casino owner named Gordon. And Gordon says some interesting things here. He seems to think that she's someone called Poker Alice.
Oh, from a
200
time
years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he believes in reincarnation or something, or what, or if they have. I mean, as we're going to learn more about Faye way later in the show, but life extending or technology. I'm not sure how or why he seems to believe that this person is the same person as Poker Alice. But he seems to think for some reason that Faye is Poker Alice reincarnated or something. And says that he wants to put her cheating and her ability to count cards and that stuff to use in a particular sort of like plan that he has going on here. So he's setting her up to get a chip from somebody who's going to come in specifically. That chip contains a key that unlocks a program that would give them the ability to like decode like anything, basically.
Yeah, like hack things.
So he needs that chip. So he's set this all up so that she can manipulate the cards to make people lose so that she can take the chip from him. Anyways, if you do this, I'll pay off your debts, is like the idea.
And that's a big thing to point out. She apparently has racked up quite the debt.
A lot of debt.
Like tons and millions and millions of oolongs.
Yeah. I like that he calls her the hottest granny in the star system because
she's older than she looks.
Yeah, well, Faye is, but like she's talking about if I was Poker Alice, I'd be 200 years old. And he's like, well, you are Poker Alice, therefore you're the hottest granny in the solar system, right? But like that's actually a little bit of a setup for Faye, her character in general.
Yes,
which you'll learn about in a later episode.
I know more later.
So as Spike and Jet are going into the casino, this is so weird. Jet says like there's no smoking, and it looks like Spike eats his cigarette.
This is one of the few notes I took here.
What the fetch?
We're getting to episode 3.
But he spits it out
exactly
later.
So this is what I put. First off, they're watching a silent film in the background of the casino.
Oh, right.
With text, like a legit 20s silent film. Like that's just fascinating for a future thing to be so rooted in the past like that.
Yeah.
But then showing him swallow that cigarette only to spit it out a few moments later is a hint that when he swallows the poker piece later on in the episode, he will not have actually swallowed it.
Yeah.
He's just kind of joking when he does that.
Yeah.
So when he swallows the poker piece in front of Faye, because he ruined her plan, you would then be able to intuit, oh, he didn't really swallow it. Because remember, he did that with the cigarette.
He can regurgitate
and he just spits it back out.
Spits it back out. Yep.
Yeah. That was my last note for this episode.
So, he tells Spike not to play games because his eyes are too good.
Too good. You get
he
thrown
can count cards. You'll get thrown out. So just let me play. They're like at the end of their money, so he's hoping he can win some money so they can keep like their operation going.
I love it.
But that's the mentality, and that's the thing I love about this, particularly with Faye, because at the end of this episode, she steals all that 30 million woolongs that they were that Gordon was pretending they were going to pay Spike and Jet in return of the chip. Mm-hmm. She steals that, but by the next episode, she's spent it all already.
It's gone, yeah.
So it's setting up a mentality for these characters, and they have a mentality that keeps them in this broke state that they're in.
Yeah.
Like, being rich or not is not about your circumstances. It's about a mentality.
Oh, sure.
Because you could come into a lot of money, but if you don't have the mentality, you're going to just waste it and throw it all away. And this happens a lot. People who win the lottery and have never had money before, professional athletes who grew up poor and never had money, they really struggle
or they spend it all
to know how to become wealthy instead of just rich for a little while.
Yeah.
Because it's very much a mentality, and these people have that mentality. They can never hold on to money. So like that mentality creates habits which keeps them perpetually broken in the situation there, and that's why their circumstances never get better. Yes. So I really like that. So anyways, that's why they're there at a casino trying to win money. Obviously they're just gonna like lose all their money, right? But it's funny because Spike ends up going to Faye's table at blackjack.
Yes. And she has a little monitor that's showing her what the guy looks like.
He's supposed to look like. He looks just like.
He's dressed just like Spike, but
him.
There was like a little garble thing around his face because his nose is different, right? So there was a weird like scan line thing that doesn't really happen in stuff anymore these days. but it did with tube TVs. And so it kind of covered his nose, so you couldn't tell that it was somebody else. I thought that was so funny.
So she mistakes
Yeah.
Spike for the guy who's supposed to be coming to give her the chip.
Yes.
So she makes him lose the way that the plan's supposed to go.
Right.
But
Well, he wins first, and then he loses. Yeah.
But he ends up keeping the chip, his last chip, instead of giving it back. And she's like, "What are you doing? Like, you're supposed to give me that chip." He's like, "What are you talking about? You were cheating the whole time. I didn't say anything."
I know.
Like,
and he says it out loud, and all the casino people are like, "What?"
And so, like,
So she's all.
she doesn't
her cover's blown.
realize. It's just like a funny situation. But even funnier, Spike bumped into this guy who was dressed just like him, and their chips got switched up.
So funny. It's so
now
funny.
Spike really does have the chip that is the one that has the microchip in it with the key, which he swallows because she demands to have it. And he's like, just playing around.
Yeah.
Anyways, she makes a run for it because she knows the type of people she's dealing with, and she failed to like do what she was supposed to do. She takes off. She had a plan to escape. They jump onto her ship, which I find really funny because she flies them back to their ship, but then they just like handcuff her.
Oh, that's right. They end up kidnapping her. Yeah.
Like, I freaking brought you back to your ship. Like, why are you handcuffing me? Like, it seems to me like you probably have a lot of money, or like maybe you have a bounty on you. We're going to look into this.
Which there was.
Like, why were you trying to run away from there, kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, this is where Jet starts doing his research. And he finds out that there's a microchip inside of the chip in the first place.
And that's why the chip's important.
It's a crypt breaker, right? So I just wrote here, let's see, what did I put? No. Faye, while she's isolated, they close the door on her
in the bathroom
where she's chained up. She ends up calling Gordon and explaining the situation. So that's how Gordon finds out where she is. Yeah. And so they show up. And so Jet is talking to Gordon. They're like negotiating the return of this chip. Mm-hmm. And he explains to Gordon that he knows exactly what this thing is, right? He used to be a cop. So like he's a detective, and he knows how to he has resources, he knows how to figure these things out. And he has like contacts.
People, he used to work with,
So 3 years prior, a group at SIT created a master decryption program called the Crypt Breaker, which can decrypt almost any security code. Shortly after its completion, the programmer turns up dead, and the program disappears. The catch is the program itself is encoded, and the computer chip in that poker chip is the key to unlocking that program. So the ISSP, which is the police of this world, has been searching everywhere for it, but couldn't find it due to it being hidden in a casino chip. This is where Jet imitates a past involvement with the ISSP, or intimates, Gordon offers to pay, and they settle on 30 million wulongs. So it's like a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Because he's just like, I could take this to the cops, like I know what this is, pay us a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's the only way you're getting this back. So Spike goes to make the exchange. It's kind of cool. He's like in a spacesuit, and he like jumps to the other ship and like uses like whatever.
That's some gravity thing
to like stand there. So it's like, here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna toss the chip very carefully to us at the same time that we give you the money, and then we go our separate ways. But then of course he's planning on killing them anyway.
Right, which Spike figured.
Yeah, and I really like that he tossed the chip, gets shot at, takes the guy out in time to get over to the other side and catch the chip like before it gets over there.
That was great. That was
it was freaking sweet.
Yeah, I love that.
But Faye ends up escaping, getting into her ship and coming and grabbing the money case with the 30 million wulongs in it.
Yeah.
And she gets away.
Yeah.
And anyways, at the end, it always ends the same. They always end up back on the Bebop with no money.
They're broke.
And whoops, we couldn't actually turn that bounty in or whatever. We're back to square one. And she goes and literally loses 30 million wulongs like this.
She loses all of it.
She loses it all so quickly.
When we see her again, she has like shopping bags and stuff.
Yeah.
But she didn't get gas for her.
No,
gas,
she's
whatever
out of
they
fuel.
use fuel
out of fuel for her ship. That's how episode 4 opens up.
Right. So she overlooks the things she needs in favor of the things she wants.
Yeah.
That's how she lives her life.
So 4 opens up and she's spent all that fortune of money, lost it all.
Yeah.
And she's like out there trying to get ships to like, hey, can you help me? Like I'm stranded. I have no fuel.
No one helps. But she does find another ship that's broken.
Like a wreck.
Yeah.
And so she goes to like investigate that wreck.
And she's at like Jupiter, I think.
Yeah. And I'll just kind of say this now. It comes later, but what she finds there is a man who has like a case that he gives to her and says, take this to the ISSP. Like, please, like, make sure this gets back to the ISSP. But she's too curious about what's inside of it. She opens it up. It's a little contraption that holds like a, I don't know what the shape of that is, like a diamondy.
It's a diamond, but it's like a cylinder, so it's like a circle diamond. Yeah. I don't know.
A little cylinder, which contains, we'll learn later, a virus. But they don't know that.
Yeah, they don't know.
So she takes it back to, well, the Bebop ends up coming and finding her again. It's like a twist of fate thing.
Yeah.
Like, aha, we got you, and so they bring her aboard. Anyways, in between that, Jet and Spike are chasing another bounty at, looks like maybe another casino or some kind of restaurant, fancy place. And as they're getting ready to like go after their target, an eco-terrorist group shoots the place up,
just kills everyone,
kills their target, kills a bunch of people, and they're like, crap. Like these people took out, they call themselves the Space Warriors.
Yeah.
And
save the sea rats.
Yeah, they're trying to save animals and stuff, you know. And anyways, Jet realizes that the leader of that group has a bounty as well, and it's
huge.
Way bigger than the person they were chasing.
But it's like 50 or something. It's way big.
It's a huge bounty. So he's like, okay, let's go get her instead. Yeah. This is working out. Like, this is actually better.
So they're able to get her pretty easily.
Yeah, they capture her.
Yeah.
And she's got, like, her followers who are all refer to her as mom or mother or whatever. Like, no, mother, like, no. Yeah. And she's like, don't worry, like, I'll be back later. Yeah. And it's kind of a funny thing where, like, one of the guys, and this was actually kind of sinister as they reveal this later.
Really screwed up.
Because they play it off like it's kind of jokey.
Yeah.
But, like, it reveals
I'll
later.
punish you when I get home.
Yeah, she's like, I'm going to punish you because you were responsible for messing up something.
Yes.
And he's like, no, please don't do that. But it's played off in, like, this humorous, silly way where you think it's going to be some trivial punishment.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It's not.
So they leave, and they basically, they try to ransom for the return of their mother by saying that they have this virus that they're going to release.
Yeah, and it's like they get the mayor or the governor or the president of one of the planets or one of the places to kind of call off the bounty.
Yes.
Because they're like, hey, we're going to like bio attack your whole city.
Right.
And so the bounty, as soon as they bring her back, the bounty's been canceled. And they're like, what do we do?
Yeah. And this is where
they
Jet
have to give her back.
Calls his contacts to be like, why was this bounty rescinded?
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't tell you about that. He's like, then he blackmails him because he's like, I know that you were involved in this other illegal thing, and if you want to live to your retirement or like go all the way up to your retirement as a cop, like you better tell me what's going on. It's like, fine. Right. So he tells him all what you just said.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, Faye and specifically Spike is trying to break open this contraption with the virus
in front of her, and she's
just
freaking
sweating it out.
Yeah, and he's like shooting it, and kicking it. So funny, man.
He's like trying to open this thing.
Yeah,
and she's just like, oh,
like, you're gonna break it, and he's like, what's the use?
But it's also revealed that this particular virus only targets humans. So like, there's like a 2% genetic difference between monkeys and humans, and this targets that 2%, and this only affects people. The entire point is that it's going to leave the rest of the ecosystem unaffected. It's only going to hurt the humans.
Yeah.
But she's like really like, oh no. But she doesn't reveal what it is. Like she sweats it out. But eventually it's like, okay, well, there's no bounty. They're not going to accept it, so we just got to let her go back. Like she's useless to us. So she thinks she's won. They let her go back. And then they basically set up their big plan, which is that they're going to shoot like a missile with all of this virus in it.
Yeah.
That's going to like hit the planet and like take everybody out. But they're going through hyperspace on the way to this planet.
Yeah, and then the bounty gets re-upped.
Yes.
It's so dumb. It's so funny.
And anyways, so when they realized this was happening, Spike and Faye go chasing after them in hyperspace. And the way they ramp up the stakes of the scene is really nice.
Yeah,
it's just this one missile, and he's like, I'm going to shoot it, and then it splits into a bunch of missiles.
Yeah.
And then they split in like 50 missiles.
Like tons more, yeah.
And they're like
splitting.
trying to take them out before it goes through hyperspace to the planet. But then like Faye's in there with him, and then the ISSP has decided they're going to close the gate.
Yeah.
Which would make it so
seal them in hyperspace. They'll
seal them in
disappear
hyperspace,
forever,
and Faye and Spike will be stuck in hyperspace forever. It's like we gotta like race the missiles and like get out before they do, so the missiles. Anyways, and so they end up getting out, but the other group, the eco-terrorist group, gets stuck in hyperspace, and Spike had snuck the vial with the virus back into her pocket when she left.
Oh, yeah,
and so then
right.
it falls out, and she's like, oh no, and it breaks, and all of them get infected. But what's also revealed is that the guy that she punished was in like a little tank, and he was exposed to the virus, and what it does is just turns you into a monkey, basically, or an ape.
Yeah.
And so...
And he's screaming like, I don't want to do it, I don't want to.
Please, no. But it like turns him slowly into an ape, and so like that was the punishment all along. Anyway.
Yeah, it was creepy.
It's a fun episode.
It is fun.
But the next episode is like the really, really good one.
Yeah.
This is the one we really want to
Possibly the best episode of TV
I
ever.
think it's my favorite
It's up there, man.
of all Cowboy Bebop for sure.
Yeah.
It's called Ballad of Following
Yeah,
Angels.
the Ballad of Fallen Angels.
And the summary for this one was, as Spike chases the reward for hunting down a high-ranking member of the Red Dragon Syndicate, he comes face to face with an old enemy. The intro scene to this one is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
So you have the Red Dragon Syndicate boss, who is named Mao. I forget his last name, but Mao.
Yeah, Mao.
And then you have the White Tiger Syndicate. And they're having this truce, this agreement, where it's like they're going to end the bloodshed between their rival gangs, right? Their rival criminal organizations. They shake on it. They seem to be coming to an understanding. It's like the future is going to be different now.
Yeah.
And as Mao is looking out the window as that ship is leaving, it just explodes.
It blows up.
And it's like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And then all his dudes are getting taken out around him.
Mm-hmm.
And Vicious, this character with this silvery long hair, comes in. And I love that he doesn't say anything. Like, he doesn't go on some monologue about how I outsmarted you, and you used to be someone I looked up to, but not anymore. Like, you lost your way. Mao tries to explain to him, look, the Syndicate can't survive in the old ways anymore. We gotta adapt. We gotta change. And Vicious doesn't say anything. He just leaves, and they cut the dude's throat.
Yeah, with a sword.
With a sword.
In the year 2071, they use a sword.
Vicious has a samurai sword, a katana. That he wields.
I've got some stuff to talk about with that.
So essentially, then Vicious, I think, is what happens. He puts out a bounty on Mao, but it's all like a ruse to
Oh yeah.
They're trying to bait Spike.
They want Spike,
to come after this.
Yeah.
But so they put a bounty on Mao, even though Mao is dead, for having killed the White Tiger Syndicate leader.
Yeah.
So that's the bounty. And when this comes to Spike's attention, he's like, okay, I have to get involved. Because he used to be a part of the Red Dragon Syndicate.
Yes, he did.
In his past.
And this is where Jet is like, no, let's not get involved. And this is where you come to realize something really important about Jet and Spike. They don't actually know each other.
They don't know each other's backstories.
No, they don't. They haven't talked much. They don't know each other. And so Spike, because Jet is like, okay, you never care about anything. Why do you care about this?
Yeah.
And Spike doesn't want to be asked about that. So immediately he goes, hey, Jet, what happened to your arm?
Yep.
And they just look at each other. And neither of them wants to say
reveal.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, that's it. And that's why I wrote down. That's why they're lonely even when they're together.
Yes.
That's why you can still feel the loneliness with the music and the atmosphere even when they're together.
Yeah, even though they seem to have some kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, friendship, bond.
Polite to each other sometimes, yeah.
Working relationship, I don't know what you want to call it.
Yeah.
But it's not deep.
They're not friends and it's not deep.
Yeah.
They just are reliant on each other.
Yes. So Jet goes to do his thing. He's digging into details to find out what's really going on with this.
Yeah.
Something's not right about it. While Faye decides she's going to approach this bounty hunt in her own way, right? So she just goes to the opera house and talks her way into the
because she
booth.
knows that he was going to be there.
And this is where Vicious sort of reveals himself to her they take her hostage.
Oh, how they do it too is crazy. Because she thinks she's playing them. As soon as she gets up to the suite, they say, "Hey, we've been expecting you."
Yep.
And she's like, "What?" And they're like, "Go on in. We know who you are."
Yeah.
And she was like, not ready for this. And then they sit her down next to Mao, and he's dead.
Yeah, he's got his throat
He's
slit. He's just a corpse.
There's a movie where basically that exact thing happens, and I can't remember what the movie's called. But there's a movie where they're watching an opera and somebody sits down next to a dude who's already dead.
Yeah.
And it's like crazy. But I think this was kind of a reference to that.
Yeah, like a homage.
Yeah. But yeah, then Vicious shows up and he's like, so, Faye Valentine.
So they're going to use her again to try to bait Spike, right? Then it kind of cuts to Spike going to visit somebody from his past, a contact from the old Red Syndicate.
Oh, Annie.
Annie is her name.
The kids
are like trying to
magazine.
steal the porn magazine. Yeah.
And that's so funny. It's like 2071. Now, I don't know. This is how things used to be. It used to be you go to a magazine shop.
Yeah.
And then there's an adult section at the magazine shop. I mean, that just does not exist anymore. And it hasn't been that long, you know?
Yeah.
And like Cowboy Bebop's 1998, but it's kind of, the internet was still so early at the time.
There are some things that are really hard to predict that will change. There are other things you could reasonably predict. We kind of talked about this in the FF10 podcast.
Yeah.
About 100 years.
Yes.
But some things you can't.
Some things are just, things happen you can't predict.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wonder if they did it on purpose, though. I wonder, because remember they were showing that silent film
That's
at
true.
the casino.
That's true.
Like, who shows a silent film ever for anything anymore?
Yeah.
Unless it's an artsy art house or something. Like, this just doesn't happen. So I feel like it's an intentional, like, maybe they did know, oh, this isn't likely going to be a thing in the future, but we're going to put it here anyways, because they're just genre mashing. They're just throwing things together, you know?
It reminds me a little bit of Isaac Asimov, the author who wrote Foundation. And Foundation is like a freaking insane future timescale, like 15,000 years in the future. Yeah. Something like they don't even know that Earth is the origin planet of mankind anymore. It's like the entire origin of the human race is like unknown at this point. It's like that far in the future. But they have newspapers.
Nice.
They read newspapers.
Of course.
It's just like, it's like for all the things that are really cool about the guesses about what that society might look like, or a galactic civilization that are like really cool and convincing. Yeah. It's like you just could not see past newspapers.
There's a few things that's like, that didn't even take 50 years before that was wrong.
Exactly.
It's so funny.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So it's kind of like one of those things. But
I will say, though, in Japan, people still read newspapers. Did you know that?
I did not.
In Japan, particularly, and they still use fax machines. Like all everywhere, they still do that.
That's crazy.
It's almost like a status thing to be riding the subway, reading a newspaper.
That's true.
But it's still a big business in Japan.
Yeah. Oh, these were the kids I was talking about in the other podcast about the whiny voices sounding. They're like, who are you?
Yeah.
It's just overdone.
Get out of the way. I wanted to mention before we get too far, the Red Syndicate, you saw a brief shot of the boardroom when they were having the meeting with the other guys. And there's an image in the background that was two cherubs. Did you see that? Like two, cherub, like little kid angels with, one of them's dark, one of them's light, right? So the light's coming from the left side, and you can see the one on the left is light and the one on the right is darker. And it's just a trick of the lighting. It wasn't necessarily designed that way, but it was presented that way on purpose. They're presenting to us the idea of the twins, or the brothers, right? The idea of the good brother and the bad brother, right? Yes. Cain and Abel, Remus and Romulus.
Yeah, sure.
Seth and Osiris, or Scar and Mufasa.
Yes.
Just the common trope that's been around for a long time. And it's hinted at, right, just in that image right there in that boardroom, that there are two children of this group that are, anyways, one's white and one's black. I think it's great.
Yep. Okay, so Annie basically explains what really happened, right? Like now, because Spike knows something's not right about this whole bounty thing.
Yeah.
So she explains.
He's been framed and he's dead already.
Yeah, he's already dead. It's like Vicious is like on a rampage here, like something.
And what had essentially happened here is they were framing Mao for killing the guy who left his building.
Yeah,
when
the white
thing
tiger
exploded. They were framing him for doing that.
Yes, right.
So it's like, obviously he didn't do it.
Right. So this is where he realizes, okay, Vicious is out of control. I got to go deal with this.
Yeah, he's let his past go for too long. He needs to actually confront it.
So he goes back to the Bebop to get guns and
grenades.
And
tons
weapons.
of ammo, yeah. Or Annie gives him some too. While Annie's telling him, hey, don't do this, you're going to throw away your life.
Yeah.
At the same time, she's like giving him guns and stuff. Yeah, like there's a Colt 1911, I think, and like a whole box full of ammo.
Yeah, because it's like, you're not going to listen to me anyways.
Yeah, so I may as well let you be prepared.
Yeah, you never listen to anybody.
Exactly.
And she's drinking a lot. And so he's like, you got to stop drinking. That's enough.
Right.
And she's like, one more from Al. And he takes it.
It's like,
if it's from Al, then I'll drink it myself.
Yeah, I'll take one from Al.
So he obviously...
He has a heart. He has feelings. He has a past.
And he respected Mao like a father.
Yes, he liked Mao a lot, yeah.
And loved him. And so, anyways, it's a really nice scene. But back on the Bebop, as he's preparing.
Oh, it's also revealed he died 3 years ago.
Oh, right. Oh,
she's like, you're alive.
The Syndicate thinks
you're alive.
But Spike Annie died.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm not
3
saying,
years ago.
but he's not dead. But they think he died 3 years ago.
Yes.
Annie feels like she's seeing a ghost, like he came back alive. She didn't know that.
Yeah.
So.
But obviously Vicious knew somehow because he's like trying to bait Spike out this whole time.
Yeah, I suppose so.
So he found out somehow that he's still alive.
I haven't seen the show in a long time. So. But yeah, that's correct. That would follow.
But the rest of them were like, they all thought he was dead, right?
Yep. So he was dead, but yet he lives. So he is something of a Christ figure. And that's not something you probably would have been able to predict for the first 4 episodes of the show.
No. So anyways, I liked this scene where Jet comes back and keeps trying to talk him out of it. And it gets to the point where he's ready to reveal what happened to his arm to try to get him to
yes.
It's like, you want to know about my arm?
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't tell him what happened, but it's like he begins to, and he's just
like, he basically says,
I got in over my head. I went and did something I knew I shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
Like, don't make the same mistake.
Exactly.
He's
and
like,
that's enough.
Really trying to like get to him.
Yeah.
And like, Spike's like, basically, no, I have a debt to Mao that I intend to pay off. So he's just not going to be dissuaded from this, right? Then Faye calls in for the ransom, asking for the ransom, right?
Yeah.
Which Jet is immediately
Jet's like, you got yourself into this problem, you get yourself out.
We're not going to help you. But Spike says, hold on, where are you? Because, not
and
because
she's like, really? You're going to come
save me? No, I'm not coming to save you. I'm coming. I just want to know where Vicious is.
Exactly.
So this is where it just
Real
gets
quick, though, I got to mention,
so good.
at the Opera House, the song that's being sung by the woman as she's reaching towards the light, and you see that moment there, it's Ave Maria, which is, it means Hail Mary, but it's basically a song sung at funerals, right?
Oh, right.
And it's Latin, it's a Catholic kind of thing, but it's a funeral song, and then that was the song for Mao's funeral, basically, that Faye attended anyways, and that everything's red within the funeral hall, and then she reaches up towards the light as though, anyways.
That's interesting.
It's really cool, really interesting imagery. But yeah, that's the song, Ave Maria.
Now is when this episode just gets masterful. This whole sequence with the gunfight in the cathedral is unbelievably
Yeah, it is
good.
something else. I put here too, Spike is being driven unconscious, right? He's being driven to his past. He's going back into his memories. He's no longer living in the present.
Yeah.
And so even when somebody tells him not to go, he's like, I can't not go.
Yeah.
Like I'm not in control. Like other forces are in control of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he says, this is reinforced later when he says that he's just living one long dream that he's never woken up from. But this is, he's not in charge. His memories are. His shadow is in charge.
Yeah.
And his shadow is personified by Vicious.
Yeah. And this is like the iconic sequence.
Yeah, this sequence is way too good, way too good.
So it's the style of it, it's the action, the pacing, the sound, the music they use, the animation, the composition.
The music is incredible.
All of it is just like so perfect in the way it comes together that it just evokes. It's so captivating.
Yeah.
It's like you cannot look away. It's just so freaking cool. So this does not set out to resolve any of this conflict. This is really just an introduction to establish it, really, for Spike. So it's like the episode's almost over, but it's like none of this has been solved, right?
I know.
It's like it's just getting started. So
they go to a church.
Yeah, cathedral.
The church is in disrepair. It's abandoned, right? And it symbolizes essentially the past, right?
Yeah.
So Spike is going to the past, right? It doesn't seem like the world is very religious in 2071,
Yeah.
right? But there's this church, and it's out on the outskirts, away from the city, in this dark area. And you walk in, and you're seeing, it's like walking into the past, right? It's an old place, but it's dirty, it's abandoned. It's not a past that has been well kept, right? Some things have happened here. And so they continue to destroy the past as they seek to destroy each other. Yeah. They remind each other of their respective past. They're trying to escape the past, at least Spike is. Yeah. So anyways, this all happens in a church, and they're showing all these shots, these really cool shots of, like of the apostles and of like the stained glass. That stained glass window at the end, it's actually from Notre Dame. It's an actual thing. I'll talk about that later.
The actual art.
But yeah, and it actually means something. So it's super, super cool. But a fight in a cathedral is just an automatic contrast, right?
Yeah.
It's an automatic, like, this doesn't fit here, right?
Yeah.
You ever seen Boondock Saints?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay, you should. It reminds me of Boondock Saints.
Yeah.
Boondock Saints, good movie.
I remember seeing that when I worked at the video store. It was like new at the time.
Yeah, it was like 2003 maybe, 2005 maybe.
And so like people were renting it and things, but I never ended up seeing it.
So good.
It's interesting to me that Vicious continually tries to like say that he and Spike are like the same thing.
Yes.
So like his first thing he says is, when angels fall from heaven, they become devils. Don't you agree, Spike? He's trying to like make them out to be, we're the same.
Yeah.
Right? And he does it again later when he says, you should see yourself. You have any idea what you look like right at this moment? And Spike says, what? He says, a ravenous beast. The same blood runs through both of us.
Because Spike is smiling.
Yes.
Spike's like, I found you. Like, I'm excited. Let's one of us die right now.
Yeah.
And he's like excited about the prospect. And Vicious is like, dude,
I
know that smile. That's my smile.
Yeah. The blood of a beast who wanders hunting for the blood of others. And then Spike says, I've bled all that kind of blood away.
Yeah. So, and what does it show when he says that? A cross.
Yeah.
So he says, I've bled that blood away, meaning I've atoned for my past.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm no longer like you, like I've changed through. And it shows the cross. It shows I love it. This is beautiful.
And then the response is, then why are you still alive?
Then why are you still alive? Exactly.
And the whole reason Vicious wants to kill him is because the whole syndicate has become soft in his eyes, right? Like they've turned away from that, what he's embodying here. What Vicious thinks they should embody.
What they ought to do, They should be psychopaths.
Yes.
Bloodthirsty psychopaths
that fight the other syndicates, and he doesn't want to turn away from that.
It's a type of a philosophy of Nietzsche, actually. The like social Darwinism should play its way to a normal end. Yeah. Like if humans become soft, then we all become soft. What's the point? Only the strong need to survive. That way we can keep Darwin's system going and actually achieve something as a human race, right? Yeah. That was kind of Nietzsche's idea. It's a radical idea. But that seems to be where Vicious is coming from.
Yeah. So anyways, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, because downstairs...
before, because Faye's there.
Faye, he sees Faye over there, and she's being held at gunpoint. And the guy's like, okay, drop your weapon now. And he just shoots the guy.
Just right there.
Right in the head. Yeah. And then has a big gunfight with a bunch of other guys.
Oh, but before that too, Vicious shows up from the shadows. I can't get over the fact that this church symbolizes the past and symbolizes Spike's unconscious past, the memories, right? Yeah. And Vicious comes out of the shadows as if he is the shadow of Spike, right? He's talking about Carl Jung shadow in a Jungian sense, right? And so Vicious steps into the shadows, and even during the time where they're talking, Vicious is there in the shadows with this raven or crow. I wrote down what it's called.
Yeah, the bird that he's got on his shoulder.
I wrote it down. I'll talk about it later. But he's got this black bird on his shoulder, and he is the shadow. He is Spike's shadow. And he even mentions it, like, we're the same. And Spike's like trying to fight past his shadow to rescue, his true self on the other side. This is something that he's never dealt with yet. He's ignored his shadow his whole life. So there's really cool Carl Jung symbolism here too. But then the firefight starts, and it's so cool. Like when he pulls the pin on the grenade and throws it back, and like just the explosions and everything, man. It's so good. It's so cool. And all of the whole way the gunfight kind of goes, it's not like he's just one-shotting everybody, Yeah. Like he's really, it seems pretty realistic for him just killing everyone, which is unlikely.
He takes a hit.
He does. And they come up on the staircase, right? And they both have two guns. They're shooting. They shoot probably 20 bullets. One of them hits, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you're one-handing a bullet or one-handing a handgun, a pistol in a stressful situation, your accuracy is really not very good.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah. Like I've shot pistols and it's like you think, like if you've never shot a pistol, you have no idea how hard it is to actually be accurate with those things. They show that here. They're both just like, and they both hit each other, you know. And I love how he hits the guy once and the guy still shoots as he's falling.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Anyways, really, really good gunfight. Really good animation. Just perfect.
Faye also gets out and calls Jet.
She leaves, calls Jet,
of this.
who's trimming a bonsai,
Yeah.
and he accidentally cuts too much. And I had a little, Jet cuts one too many branches off his bonsai tree because he's trying to avoid fighting. He has taken to a meditative exercise of peace, but he can't do it. He can't do it very well. He always is messing up with the bonsai tree. It's kind of a theme throughout the show.
Yeah.
That he's trying to get past his past of violence through this peaceful method, but he can't. He keeps being drawn back into it.
Yeah. And that's kind of the whole thing is that he kept telling Spike, like, I'm not going to back you up on this if you go. Like, please don't do it. But, like, if you do it, I'm not going to help you out. Yeah. And then Faye's like, oh, like, come help. And he's finally just like, fine. And he, like, gets up and he goes to help, right? He goes to intervene. And
cutting the bonsai tree, not being able to avoid being violent or not being capable of just calm, serene peace is symbolized in that moment. Yeah. And he's just like, I can't freaking do it. Yeah. He's got to go. He can't help it.
He can't ignore it.
Can't help it.
The call to violence, too strong.
And Vicious also says that the person he killed, being Mao, was a beast who lost its fangs.
Yes.
What do you do when the beast loses its fangs?
Yes.
You kill it. So the image is shown. As soon as he says that Mao was like a beast who lost his fangs, it shows an angel statue that had lost its wings. Its wings had crumbled over time, you know.
Yeah.
And you're getting, because already they're talking about the Ballad of Fallen Angels, but the fact that they chose that moment to show that shot of the angel when he's talking about a beast that lost its fangs, it's just like the imagery, what you're seeing and what you're hearing, they resonate. They just goes together. It's really cool.
I really like how in that last standoff between Vicious and Spike, they both have weapons drawn to the other's heart, and they stop for a second. So it's like the sword is at like Spike's heart, and his gun is pointed at Vicious's heart.
Yes.
And that's when they kind of have that conversation about we're the same.
And they're both smiling.
No,
yeah.
like
and Spike's
I've
like,
bled that blood away.
I've atoned for my sins.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill you. It's my whole purpose.
So why are you still alive? And as he said that, they both attack but slip, and so they get hit in the shoulder kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Vicious then picks him up by his face and just like throws him out of the glass pane.
And this is where,
but then like as he's falling, and this is so Spike, right?
I know.
Spike just like
sleight of hand.
lets a grenade in there, and Vicious realizes it's too late. So it's like as he's falling to his death, like Vicious is about to be blown up.
Yes.
And it just goes into slow motion, and this music is so perfect. It's like a soft voice kind of just singing this little tune.
I could have sworn it's a song that I had heard before, but I looked it up, and it's an original song from Yoko Kanno.
Yeah.
She wrote this song herself. What a versatile musician.
Amazing.
She is so good, yeah.
She's incredible.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
She's done a lot of really great, and I think she did Ghost in the Shell and
oh really? I
didn't
know
things. So she's fantastic.
Yeah.
But this is like a perfect track for this moment. It's super slow-mo. His life is flashing before his eyes as he's falling. He's remembering things from his past, a woman, Vicious, like things he had done. It keeps cutting to those things as then it cuts to the stained glass breaking and him falling a little further. And it's like a very slow sequence of this music playing. It's like serene, almost ethereal, sad. And
sad, but not too sad.
Not like, like hopeless, or it's like accepting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's more of like an acceptance kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy. It's so good.
And he's just remembering things in his life. That's kind of what it felt like to me. Like his life is flashing before his eyes.
He's seeing the important moments of his life. Yeah.
And then, like as he's falling, a grenade would not make an explosion this big, but it still looks
grenades
sweet.
are mostly shrapnel. They're not actual fireballs, but you know.
It's a massive explosion.
Yeah.
It just blows straight out.
I love
and
it.
it's just, and then he just keeps falling, and then, he ends up like, he has a memory of this woman that he's remembering sort of like coming to his bedside as he must have been injured in the past or something.
Yeah, and singing a song and taking care of him.
And that sort of like turns into him and back on the Bebop with Faye there humming.
Yeah.
Right?
I love what he says at the end.
Funniest
too. It's so
fetching
good
thing
because
ever.
she's being nice, and he I guess he was talking in his sleep, like
Yeah.
the singing,
She legitimately is showing some care.
Yes.
She's trying to help him. She's being kind to him. And he's like points to the bandage
come
on
closer,
his mouth.
come closer.
And she pulls off the bandage so that he can say,
You
sing off key.
Then you just hear him screaming from Jet as Jet does the looking over as he's cooking with the apron kind of shot. So
It's
funny, man.
Hilarious.
So good.
And a perfect way to end that episode because it got like heavier than the other episodes did.
Yes.
And it's just like it was really lightened it
But
again.
it brings us right back to back to normal.
Like it's
that
still
all happened.
fun.
We're back to
the
where
show
we were.
is still fun all
Yes,
the way
yeah,
through. It's
Now,
so funny.
I saw a lot of notes that we kind of
go for it.
skipped through a little bit, but so the bird is called a cormorant. Now, in Milton's Paradise Lost, when Satan is spying on Adam and Eve from atop the Tree of Life, the first bird that he turns into is a cormorant. It's this bird. It's a very weird idea because I was like, what kind of bird is that? And I looked it up. I didn't know. I did not recognize it was a cormorant. I don't freaking know birds. But as soon as I did, I was like, why did they pick a cormorant? So I look into it, and it's got some devil kind of symbolism, imagery kind of thing going on there. And it's got like red eyes and all that too. But that's from Paradise Lost. When they say the same blood runs between you and me, they showed a cross. I can't get over how just perfect that was. It was super meaningful. The stained glass behind them is called a rose window. Now, if you remember, from Notre Dame.
Yeah.
It's the north rose window, I think, is the one that this one represents. And you'll remember as he's falling down that he's remembering an image of a rose, right?
Yes.
And
that rose that's saturated from the very first episode in the puddle.
Yeah, that rose. You see it again, and he's got the flowers, and you see the rose, but the window they're fighting in front of is called a rose window. So I'm just going to read some of this here. It's also in the form of a mandala, which Carl Jung said symbolizes the self. Right, so on one side of the mandala is light, on the other side is darkness. Spike and Vicious are fighting in the darkness, in the shadow. When Spike is thrust into the light side, it shatters the mandala. If you can think of the window, right? So you got the window inside the cathedral, outside the cathedral. That's more or less what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When they're in the cathedral, they're in the subconscious, they're in his mind, they're in the past, right?
Yes.
And he gets thrust back through the rose window. He gets thrust through that glass outward into the real world, back into the real world, out of his mind, shattering his illusion of himself, of the self. At the same time, that rose represented something along the lines of the anima, right? A woman, right? Roses just tend to represent a woman, especially when it was dropped in the puddle that we saw earlier. That's a symbolism for him having lost a woman previously in his life or something like that, right?
Yes.
So really, really cool, really good stuff. Then the mandala gets shattered, shattering himself as he seeks to destroy his past and his shadow, sacrificing himself in the process, right? As he drops the grenade and does that whole thing. So mandalas symbolize perfect order. The shadow destroyed Spike's self and cast him back into chaos. That's that part right there. It's so good. It's just so good. I just freaking love it. I love how well that was done, and the symbolism just works so well. It was also, the mandala shows Christ. Like, you should do a comparison. You can see the Notre Dame North rose window. I'll put this up on the screen. And the image that's in the middle for Cowboy Bebop is the exact one from Notre Dame. There is no difference. It is that
the same one.
moment. Yeah. And it's Christ holding up a cup and with his other hand doing a symbol or something or other. Anyways, it's super symbolic. It's super symbolic. So this also occurs at the highest point in the church. So they've ascended the unconscious, and they're right at the point of transformation, which is Christ, and the cross, and all this stuff. It's all right there. And the angel that lost its wings, it's all right there. He reflects on his anima, who we have not yet met, but is behind the shadow. You have to take on your shadow first before you can actually rescue the anima from the depths of your subconscious, which is personified by Julia, but that. Oh, sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Personified by a person.
A woman in his dreams.
Yes, but who morphs into Faye at the end of the show. Because Faye's, that woman singing becomes Faye's singing towards the end. And you can you sense throughout the show that the idea of the anima within Spike is shifting a little bit to somebody else, someone he doesn't get along with at all, which makes it all the more better, all the better. I think it's just wonderful. Then we zoom in on Spike's eyes as he's seeing the flashbacks. Now, this isn't a big spoiler, but Spike has differences between his eyes.
Oh yeah.
One of his eyes only sees the past. The other eye sees the present. That's the idea, and this is revealed later on in the show. But I don't think that's a spoiler. It's just a thing, right? So they're showing just his left eye. They're showing his eye that sees the past, as he's seeing all of these moments, right?
As he's falling. Yeah.
It's showing that particular eye. It's not showing the robot eye. It's showing the human eye. At least I think I got that right. Either way, it's showing the eye that sees the past. I don't want to give anything away, but that's the eye that it zooms into. But like Yuna in Final Fantasy X, she has an eye difference as well.
Yes.
One of her eyes is blue, the other one's green.
Yeah.
The symbolism with the eye difference is that you see you're in two different worlds. You see two different worlds.
Yes.
And you're in between two different worlds. You're torn, right? Between, in Spike's case, it's the past and present. With Yuna, it's something else that watch our podcast and you'll find out. But Spike is in the middle between these two different worlds, being torn between the two, and that was what the shattering of the rose window kind of symbolized as well. And then the image of a cycle is being presented. Spike's life comes and goes in a cycle of repetition. That's partly just the episodic nature of the show, but it seems to kind of be repeating these cycles over and over.
Yeah.
In his life, where he died once before, now he's dying again, yet he's coming back again. This keeps happening. It's another Christ symbol that Vicious kills him, and Faye says specifically, you've been unconscious for 3 days now, right? And 3 days. That's how long Christ, before he woke up, was dead for. So that's clearly obvious symbolism here.
Yeah.
But Spike could not be more different from Christ. And that's part of where the genre mashing of this show is just so genius. It's just so masterful. I love it.
Yeah.
And then the Ace of Spades at the very end. At the beginning of the show and the end of the show, there's a moment where a card falls off a table or something happens, and then they pick it up, and it's the Ace of Spades. Well, a spade is a shovel, so the idea of the Ace of Spades from a long time ago means it symbolizes death.
Yeah.
Right, and it's also the end. It's the ultimate card, right, signifying the end of like a cycle, more or less, right? You come to the end of your life, Ace of Spades, end of the deck, and it's a spade, which is a shovel, and it's black, and it's the Ace of Spades, right? So it doesn't just mean an ending, it means change, right? You reshuffle the deck once you come to the end. So it's an ending, yet for Spike, he's alive. It's a new beginning, a resurrection, if you will. And then once again, after horrible tragedy, we return back to the non-serious, lonely life of the bounty hunter.
Yeah. The other thing I love about this particular episode is, even though it is a setup for like the grander story of Spike's past later in the show, it can be viewed as a totally self-contained thing.
Yes.
Like you could see this being the end of that story too.
Sure.
Like he killed Vicious, like you can see it that way and be like, he settled his past. The episode completely stands alone as well. It does not need to be added upon. Yeah. But it can be. It's I don't know how. It's just a fetching brilliant episode.
That's genius art right there.
Yes.
Where it's like, because there's so much art, like at the end of the movie Inception, right? Where it's like, did the ladle fall or not? The dreidel.
Yeah.
Dreidel. Did it fall or not?
The spinner thing.
The spinner. Like, you get upset not knowing whether that fell. Because the way the show is presented, it's delivering you lots of answers about things in a very artistic way. It's very artistic. But the show is very much, it's not as abstract as you would think. Like, you understand about the dream world and everything. As it relates to certain movies, you get upset not knowing exactly definitively what happened. For whatever reason, when you watch certain things like this, certain like anime or things that are using artistry in this way to create just this montage of just meaning, you're satisfied with the feeling, with the emotion. You're satisfied with the meaning, and you understand why you don't need to know more.
Yes.
And not everyone can pull that. In fact, almost no one can pull that off. Yeah. But it's so meaningful. Like, it just about brings a tear to your eye watching this, and you're like, I don't even know what I'm watching. I don't know who these people are. I don't know who the woman is. I don't know what this stuff represents. I don't know any of this. But it's like so powerful, so powerful. And at the end of it, you're just like, I don't know what I just experienced, but it was like transcendent.
It's what the impression it gave to me was that this is an example of style equaling substance, and equaling really, really good substance. It's like you don't have to know all those things.
No.
The style of how it's delivered is so great. It is so masterful that you just intuit some meaning from it, and it just feels really satisfying, and like the knot was tied when it was all over, even though there's a lot of ambiguity in it.
But that just doesn't matter.
And it doesn't matter.
And it's all in how you tell the story as to whether or not you can pull that off in the end. If they were feeding us answers and all this stuff all along the way and then didn't tell us, that would not be as satisfying. But seeing everything pictured all at once like that was so powerful. You just don't care. You do want to know more, but it's like, it's
you don't
so
have
satisfying.
to know.
It's like, I'll wait another 10 episodes of jokes. Before I'm fine with that.
Exactly. So, anyways, if you have not seen Cowboy Bebop and you consider yourself a fan of anime, like this at least is an episode you have to see.
Absolutely.
This show.
I'd say watch episode 1 and then 5.
At least.
We'll watch the whole thing. Yeah.
It's one of the most influential anime that has ever been created. Anyone who's in anime, doing anime right now, watched this show and drew inspiration from it at some point in their lives.
Oh, guaranteed.
Like,
guaranteed.
It was a huge, enormously, just a powerful show.
And you know what?
Classic.
I don't mind the English dub for this show.
It's really
actually good.
It's really good.
Like, I almost always do Japanese, and even this time, I watched it in Japanese. That's the version I have of it.
Yeah.
And I can't not do it. But I grew up with Adult Swim watching the English dub, and it's like, it's really good. I have no qualms with the English dub.
It's really well done. Thank you, everyone who supports the channel. You guys are amazing. This is so much fun that we get to
it really
do
is.
this. I'm having the time of my life freaking breaking this stuff down. It's just
it's so fun.
I feel like we've come into something that, for me at least, feels like it's super satisfying to do. So we hope you guys enjoy it too. And we'll see you again next month for the next one. I'll put that vote up soon for the next thing we cover. See ya. Peace out.